People come from all walks of life. They all have lives they lead. Any and all are welcome here to come and chat with me.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode. Today, we're going to meet somebody who's got a really interesting career. He is a movie firearms coordinator, among other things. Time to meet Cameron Smith. Welcome to the show, Cameron.
Thank you for having me. Hello, everybody.
So tell me how you became a firearms coordinator in the movies.
Essentially, it happened when I was on my way to film school back in 1999. But before that, I was a firearm safety instructor in Saskatchewan for the Saskatchewan Wildlife Federation for a number of years. I was a coaching instructor with the Royal Canadian Army Cadet Corps, where I taught young people how to shoot 22s and compete in biathlon events and shooting competitions. So when I moved out to the West Coast, I told myself after several years in the film industry as a background performer that if I was going to get behind the camera, I had better get a piece of paper that says, hey, I know what I'm doing.
Right.
So decided I was going to go to film school, and I elected to go to the slightly new Vancouver Film School. There you go. Got a plug, guys. and as I was attending film school, the previous classes were having various auditions for the short film program, which comes at the end of the school year. You take everything that you've learned and pack it into a short film. And one day I was coming into the school to do some editing work, and I noticed that there was an individual sitting amongst the people waiting to audition. And I noticed that he had an RCMP sticker on his metal binder. Well, my dad had one of those, so I'm very familiar with what that is. And so I struck up a conversation with him, and he mentioned that he was there to audition for a short film. And he just let slip that he was working on a Wesley Snipes movie. Ooh. And so I'm like, oh, well, what do you do? And he goes, well, I'm an armorer on a film set. I went, oh, that's cool. I've always thought of, wondered what that was like. And so he got called into his audition, but before he went in, he said, well, we're working in Victory Park, which is right beside Vancouver Film School at that time, or still is. And basically gave me a free invite and a pass to get on set. So I skipped class.
Yeah.
And went next door to set. And essentially I walked onto set, and I'm very familiar with film sets. So walking on, I wasn't awkward. I asked for the right questions to the right people to find the right location. Bumped into several actors, and just treated them like everybody else. I didn't have that fanboy thing like, oh, hi, didn't go through any of that. And I never have. I actually have an actor that called me on that one time, but anyway. Long story short, during filming there was a scene where several SWAT personnel were to engage a bad guy. And so the blank firing weapons involved were giving them issues. And so I was back at the truck. I wasn't actually on set. I was back at the truck while the armorer was running around doing a number of different things on set. And so anyway, the stunt performer comes to me and goes, I need this fixed. It's not working properly. And so I'd been read the riot act when I arrived on set. Don't touch anything, don't look anything, don't take anything apart, don't touch it, blah, blah, blah. You're not cleared, you're not licensed, et cetera, et cetera. And I went, okay. So this ends up on a table in front of me. And it's sort of like, okay, just from hearing the description of what's going wrong, I know what's wrong with it. And so time is going on, and this stunt performer came back several times. Is it ready? Is it ready? So I'm like, nope, the armor is not back. And he's pacing back and forth. Anyway, What I did was I managed to strip this submachine gun, get it up and running, and give it back to the stunt performer who dashed off to set. And I guess the armorer on set had asked him who got it up and running because it wasn't him.
Right.
And so he comes back and he says, good job for doing that, but you were told not to. So, that's it. You're done. And so like, okay, well, thanks for having me on set and all that various other stuff. So I went home that night, and fortunately I lived on the edge of Gastown, so I didn't have far to walk. And the whole way home, I'm like, woe is me. Oh, screwed my opportunity to work in film. Way to go. And went home and didn't sleep, tossed and turned. Anyway, next day I'm in class and I get a phone call. And it's the CEO of the company that is providing the firearms and the armoring for this motion picture.
Okay.
And he asked me a number of different questions, and I responded to them. And he says, "Okay, well, you know what? I want to meet you." Says we're going to talk about what you did. And so like, oh wow, okay. I pictured walking into somebody's office and the RCMP waiting for me. So, and anyway, I got on the SkyTrain and I went down to Burnaby. And I went into a very large warehouse in Burnaby. It's not there anymore, but went into an office and I met 3 individuals, and they all asked me various questions about what I did and how I did it and how I knew how to do it and all this other good stuff. And at the end of the meeting, when I'm figuring I'm going to be led out in cuffs, he says, "Do you want a job?" And I said, "Sure. And what do you expect me to do?" And he goes, "More of what you did, only this time you'll be legal." So jumped through all the paperwork, was added to a number of different licenses, wrote a number of tests, did a number of practical table tests where they were trying to stump me by bringing out different types of firearms from various eras. And I was fixing them, cleaning them, maintaining them, etc. And I did that for that particular organization for about 2.5 years. And worked on a number of feature films, a couple of TV shows, a lot of short films. I really like working on short films because we're catching the next generation of filmmaker.
Right.
And it's interesting to watch that there's still quite a few young people that are leaning towards the masters of filmmaking,
right,
and not so much towards the whiz bang special effects CGI green screen of everything. So that's always good to see. So I took a break from it firearms coordinating on set armoring for a couple of years, and a different organization, different person came to me. I was working in a different place at the time that had nothing to do with film. And he invited me out for a coffee, and he said, "I really need somebody that has your capability and these are his words, not mine. I don't want it to sound like I have a massive ego, but he goes, I need somebody who has an encyclopedic knowledge of firearms handling, maintenance, problem solving, that kind of a thing."
right.
And I said, "Sure, absolutely." And went to work 2 days later on a feature film, and just fell right back into step and have been going steady ever since. And up until 2015, pardon me, I was full-time in the film industry. And then when the film industry took a downturn for a couple of years, and not as many projects were being made, and a lot of people from the West Coast went to Ontario and Quebec, and it was getting a little tough to find work, a little tough to pay the bills. And I figured, okay, well, you know what, responsibilities, being an adult and all of that. And so I took a position with Provincial Health. And and so I work in healthcare logistics. Weird thing for a person who knows so much about firearms. But
Well, what did that entail?
What essentially what I do is I work for the Provincial Health Services Authority, and what we do, what we're responsible for, is the picking, placement, and shipping and replenishment of every hospital in the province of British Columbia. Well, not every hospital, but every hospital in our region,
Right.
which includes Vancouver Island. And so we have a warehouse full of everything from A to Z, soup to nuts, hospital beds, you name it.
Okay.
And this stuff is trucked out every day, 24 hours a day, no rest. And with COVID, things skyrocketed a fair bit, and 12, 14, 16-hour days became the norm there for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Which was okay because, well, you spend that on a film set anyway. So while a lot of people were dragging, I was sort of like, let's go. And so I do that full time now.
Okay.
But
But
the person who employs me in the film industry as a firearms coordinator still gets calls where they ask specifically for me.
oh, nice.
So they appreciate my candor, my teaching technique, my abilities, etc. And here again, their words, not mine.
You know.
It makes me sound like I have this horrendous ego, which I certainly hope I don't. But when I work with actors, stunt people, background performers, etc., the firearm safety instructing comes in handy.
Sure.
It's pivotal in it, actually. The industry provides some and provides some training in the world of firearms,
Mm-hmm.
but they can't go into the detail that a firearm safety instructor actually has, because they have a certain amount of pages they have to make in a day.
Right.
So, they're the people that are hired to come on set, the armorers, the firearms coordinators, they fill that gap. They have that knowledge. They have that certification. And so when we're brought on set, our sole purpose is to instruct, maintain, and observe those people using firearms, whether they're blank firing, whether they're just waving them around, whichever the scenario might be.
Mm-hmm.
We're the stopgap between the actor with the gun and the crew in the outside world.
Okay.
We're safety number one.
Right.
And so now that I'm in a casual part-time basis, I do a lot of work in my shop at home. Sometimes the show will ask for a specific type of firearm or an actor. That happens more often than not, where the talent will say, I want this kind of firearm, and it'll be jazzed up. So you have to have a certain amount of knowledge in tearing down, rebuilding, metalwork, welding, bluing, that type of thing. A lot of metallurgy involved, firearm safety involved, the knowledge of firearms, how they work, how you tear them apart, how you fix them, etc. And also, because I've had the privilege over the years, particularly growing up in a firearm safety exclusive family, both my parents were firearm safety instructors, as was I. My dad was Royal Canadian Air Force, and I was in Her Majesty's Armed Forces for a few years.
Right.
And so being around firearms pretty much became second nature. Myself, I never had that, ooh, golly gee, it's a gun, it's a toy, that kind of mentality. From day one, I was brought up that these things are a tool. They're meant to be used responsibly, and it starts with you.
Right.
So as coming back around to what I was talking about, as I tend to segue a lot, sorry.
That's all right. It's your interview. Say what you want.
Yeah. And so I've had the opportunity to work with a number of different members of the military over the years, from not only Canada, but from the US as well. Germany, and a number of European nations, and it's all been through the film industry.
Right.
The larger budget shows will actually bring in advisors, military or law enforcement advisors. And because I grew up in a law enforcement family of sorts, I have the ability to actually talk shop with them. And when they realize that I'm just not some guy who's pegging them for information,
Yeah.
they kind of, we start talking, we drink coffee, and we spend all the time between setups talking shop, talking this, talking that.
Right.
And we tend to learn a little bit from each other. And so you might learn a new European tactical technique or a fighting technique, which is more stunts. I don't do stunts. I don't coordinate stunts. I do what's called action coordination with firearms. How would you set up, well, a perfect example was a student film I worked on. How would you set up a shootout between two people in a phone booth? And so long before John Wick did it, a number of years ago, I coordinated it on a short film for some film students.
Right.
And there was no blank fire involved, but we did it in such a way that it was very believable that there was. And so we did it in such a way that both the actors were safe and both the characters were able to coordinate themselves in this very intense battle in a phone booth,
Right.
where they were able to give the director what he wanted and then give him several options afterwards. And so my job in that instance was where and how would they use the firearms in a fight like that? And
Right.
the stunt coordinator would be there as well, saying, okay, well, you could use this style of fight move or this style of fight move. And we did it in such a way that at no time was any actor ever in serious risk of injuries. But when you see the finished product, it's impressive. It's really impressive.
Cool.
Yeah. So,
Well, yeah,
anyway.
I was just wondering if, with recent, what happened, that accident in US with, God, I can't remember.
Alec Baldwin.
Yeah. Like, has anything like that or anything near, maybe not that extreme, happened while you're been working, to your knowledge?
What I can say is that I've been involved in film and firearms for over 25 years, and it has never happened on a set that I've been on.
Right.
Whether it's myself or whether it's a different armor from a different company.
Yeah.
That has never happened. It may have happened. I've heard rumors from back in the 80s before I was involved.
Right.
But here again, that type of tragedy is usually handled by IATSE, the investigations, well, and ACSAFE ACSAFE, Film Safe, what's it called now? ACSAFE, pardon me.
All right.
Great, that means I have to go requalify because I forgot who they were.
Yeah.
Like, oh, Cam, here's that test you need to write.
Yeah.
But
I mean, that has to be such an unusual situation, I would think, though, right?
It is an unusual situation, and it's a travesty, for lack of a better word.
Yeah.
Is it a series of blatant neglect? Is it arrogance? Is it, was it a mechanical failure? Were they tired? Myself, regarding the whole Alec Baldwin scenario, I've heard a couple of different versions of what happened, and a number of different opinions on what's happened as well. Myself being very familiar with single action revolving firearms like what are used in Westerns, I have some questions that I would like to ask.
Right.
To these individuals. However, that opportunity will never come for me. I have to wait for the investigation like everybody else.
For sure, yeah.
And I've had a number of people ask me my opinion on the situation, and I said I don't have all the facts.
Yeah.
And I don't have the information necessary to give a solid opinion
Yeah.
about what happened. What do I believe happened? A chain of neglect, a chain of unfortunate events. Live ammunition, which is never allowed on a film set, especially when firearms are on set. How did that happen? How did a person who was not responsible for the firearms end up handling the firearms? How was the person who was responsible for the firearms, I'm going to use this word because it's honest, clueless about their job?
Right.
And why did the actor, why did Mr. Baldwin, who has had numerous instances of handling firearms in various films over the years, he knows what he's doing. How did that incident take place?
Right.
And what it, unfortunately, from what I've observed, it's basically dissolved into legalities, finger pointing.
Hold on just a second. Hold on just
no
a second before. Okay, so yeah, sorry everybody. There was just, I had a delivery, my intercom went off, so meant to have a buzzer. Anyway, you were interrupted in the middle of your speech, whatever you were saying at that moment, Cameron. You were talking about what were we talking about?
Essentially, was the chain of events that
Oh, yes.
led to the injuries and the deaths on the set of Rust. And something like that is always, it's always bone chilling to a firearms coordinator or a film set armorer, because we all collectively throw our head backs and roar when we hear something like this, because we're the individuals, we're brought on for our professionalism, our knowledge, our experience in handling safety and the execution of, you know, having firearms on a film set, putting them in an actor's hand, and ensuring that whatever the dramatic aspect of those firearms in the scene are being used for, that they're being used safely, in, even though it's in a menacing manner, it's done safely, whether they're unloaded or you have trigger control where your finger's off the trigger. You're never purposely pointing it at anybody on set. Pardon me, even when you're on camera. It looks like you are. Sometimes you're not. Most times you're not.
Right. Sorry.
No, carry on.
Well, I was just going to say, I understand what you mean. Like I've done a number of student films, and one time I got to kill a guy with a golf club.
Oh yeah.
It had to look like I was actually hitting him, but without touching him, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, let's switch topics, because I also know that you collect movie cameras.
Yes, I do. Oh, there it is. Yes, I do. I have what is, some people have called, more than one person has called, the largest commercial movie camera collection in Western Canada.
Is that right?
Yes, I have over nearly 500 pieces, and it's growing weekly. Of everything from the early 1920s to the last gasp of the home movie camera, which was the early 90s.
Right.
And so, yeah, I have many. I also have a page on Facebook called the Antique Movie Camera Appreciation page.
Okay.
And for the longest time, there was only maybe 15 or 20 people on it.
Right.
And then I met a contact from Japan who, his father was involved in the manufacture of movie cameras in the 60s. And he thought it was really great that, you know, here's this page and here's this guy who has a lot of movie cameras and some of the stuff that his dad made even. And he started a page in Japan, and that page became went all the way through Asia, different pages. And now the page that I created a number of years ago, just to kind of show off what I have, has several thousand people on it now,
Oh,
and it's actually used as a reference. And I don't have much involvement with the page anymore. There's a number of different administrators from all over the world, and they have vastly superior knowledge than I do in these things. And what I've always told myself is that if somebody has more knowledge than you, step back, you know. And so, and yeah, I collect commonplace cameras, not so commonplace cameras from North America, Canada, England, Japan, Russia, everywhere. And I have fairly common pieces and some that aren't so common, and some you would swear were built by the Jetsons, and they're just very unique looking types of movie cameras. So yeah, it's something I enjoy. It's how I unwind.
sounds interesting. No, yeah, we all need some.
See what I did there? Manual winding movie camera. An unintentional pun, folks. Sorry. And yeah, if 9 times out of 10, oh, pardon me, over 90% of my cameras work. And my downtime is basically seeing if I can get the ones that don't work up and running. And for the most part, I'm successful, but I always have trouble with the German ones. The German ones, when they stop working, that's it. Unless you hold a PhD in minute screws and springs, forget it. They're beautiful cameras. They run beautifully, but wow, try and fix them. Not so much.
Not so much. Yeah. Well, that's really interesting. I'm just kind of wondering, what made you get involved in collecting them to begin with? What was your, you know?
Essentially what happened was, I was on a film set in, I believe it was Ashcroft, British Columbia. And we were done filming for the day, and I was walking back to my car, I believe. Yeah, I was walking back to my car, which I had to park a little ways away from set. And there just happened to be a thrift store there. And I just, okay, well, I'll go in and have a look. And as I was going in, I noticed that they were taking stuff off the shelf and throwing it in one of these rolling bins. And they grabbed a movie camera off a shelf and they just threw it in the bin. And I said, well, what's going on? Why is it being thrown in the bin? And he says, if stuff doesn't sell after 90 days, it goes into the garbage. And I said, well, I'll take that camera off your hands. What do you want for it? And so, I don't know, give me a loonie.
Oh, nice.
So, yeah, I gave him a loonie for it. And that particular camera that he gave me was from 1933. And it was a standard 8 or regular 8 movie camera. I won't go into all that fun stuff. But I took it home, I cleaned it up, and 1 turned into 5, 5 turned into 20, 20 turned into 100, and 100 has turned into almost 500 now. So I have, yeah, exactly. So I have everything from standard 8, single 8 Japanese formats, 16 millimeter. I almost had a 35 millimeter Mitchell, which is an actual full-size motion picture camera.
Wow.
Almost got one of those, but then the person found out what it was actually worth, and so that sale didn't go through. It's sort of like too rich for me. You win.
Yeah.
And,
oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, and so I find them everywhere. You know, thrift shops and eBay and marketplaces and stuff like that. And if I don't have it, it's almost a compulsion that I need it. You know, it's sort of like, oh, this one is missing from this collection. I have this year and this year and this year and this model, but there's a gap right there. So like, okay, well, what's it worth? I'm not paying that. Let's keep looking, you know, that kind of thing.
And have that gap. Well, we're out of time. Yeah, I know, it goes so fast. And of course, that little break with me running downstairs, you know, took a little time. But this has been really very, very interesting. I just enjoy talking to people, especially when they so into whatever it is they're doing, you know? It
Oh,
makes,
well, thank you very much.
yeah, it makes it so much more pleasurable to, and then people who, you know, ask a question, you have no problem answering and just going with it. I love that part of it for sure. So anyway, just
I will go for as long as possible until people shut me up.
that being said, I have to say goodbye. Just hold on to the audience. I want to thank you all for watching. I hope you tune in. I really hope you subscribe to these interviews. They're always so informative. And Cameron K. Smith is his name, and he's on Facebook. So you can always contact him there if you want to get more information from him.
Absolutely.
Yeah, great. Okay. Thank you for watching, everybody, and peace out.
A sense of community, Chilliwack's a place to be. A sense of community where you're free. Rolling through the mountains, rolling through the valley, rolling through paradise with me. It's multicultural, you're sure to see it all. Chilliwack's the place to be, you'll see. Come party in the park, go dancing after dark. Chilliwack's the place to be, you'll see.